Hello, good morning, and welcome to this exciting moment where we talk about business. It is Business 360, and my name is Blyden Okem. In Business 360 today, we'll look at some of the biggest stories in the world of business, and part of it being that of the stock market and the foreign exchange market, as the Russian ruble is on the negative this morning. We'll also talk about the commodities and key stories regarding global economy. Most importantly, we'll look at interest rates in New Zealand. But let's begin a conversation from TikTok. Social media app TikTok is suspending its online shopping service in Indonesia to comply with new rules in Southeast Asia's biggest economy. The country says the regulations are aimed to help protect local physical and online retailers. Indonesia was the first country to pilot the app's e-commerce service in 2021 and became one of the biggest markets for TikTok Shop. Meanwhile, last week, Indonesia announced regulations that would force TikTok to split its shopping feature from the popular video sharing service in the country. In the United Kingdom, the interest that the UK government pays on national debt has reached a 20-year high as the rate on 30-year bonds reaches 5.05%. A rise in the cost of borrowing comes at a difficult time for Chancellor Jeremy Hunt as he prepares for the autumn statement on the 22nd of November. Hunt made it clear that tax cuts will not be announced in November. Meanwhile, the increased cost of servicing the country's debt creates further limitations. The total amount that the UK government owes, called the national debt, is currently about £2.59 trillion. Now to the U.S. The U.S. House of Representatives on Tuesday voted 216 to 210 to oust Speaker Kevin McCarthy from his job, a first in U.S. history, as infighting among his fellow Republicans plunged Congress into further chaos just days after it narrowly evaded government shutdown amid mix-up regarding budgets. Let's have insights on the situation.
The yeas are 216. The nays are 210. The resolution is adopted. Without objection, the motion to reconsider is laid on the table. The office of Speaker of the House of the United States House of Representatives is hereby declared vacant.
Well, it all began with Republican Representative Matt Gaetz of Florida, who laid the charge against House Speaker Kevin McCarthy. Let's find out how it all started.
Mr. Speaker, my friend from Oklahoma says that my colleagues and I who don't support Kevin McCarthy would plunge the House and the country into chaos. Chaos is Speaker McCarthy. Chaos is somebody who we cannot trust with their word. The one thing that the White House, House Democrats, and many of us on the conservative side of the Republican caucus would argue is that the thing we have in common, Kevin McCarthy said something to all of us at one point or another that he didn't really mean and never intended to live up to. I don't think voting against Kevin McCarthy is chaos. I think $33 trillion.
Well, amid demands to fund the Ukraine war and all the antecedents, the mix-up in the world regarding US and the rest of the world based on business concerns, it's been the stipulated point where the Speaker had to be withdrawn. Meanwhile, there is an interim Speaker of the House, but the former Speaker, Kevin McCarthy, says he won't run again for Speaker of the House of Representatives. He had different reasons, while giving reporters outlook in Washington regarding this. Let's find out more.
I will tell you is, Doing the right thing isn't always easy, but it is necessary. I don't regret standing up for choosing governance over grievance. It is my responsibility. It is my job. I do not regret negotiating. Our government is designed to find compromise. I don't regret my efforts to build coalitions and find solutions. I was raised to solve problems, not create them. So I may have lost a vote today, but as I walk out of this chamber, I feel fortunate to have served the American people. I leave the speakership with a sense of pride, accomplishment, and yes, optimism. From the day I entered politics, my mission has always been to make tomorrow better than today. I fought for what I believe in, and I believe in this country of America. My goals have not changed. My ability to fight is just in a different form. You need 218. Unfortunately, 4% of our conference can join all the Democrats.
Well, many of the House of Reps members or congressmen said the former speaker was too transactional. Well, it's still in the U.S. The Biden administration took aim on Tuesday at the fentanyl trafficking threat, announcing a series of indictments and sanctions against Chinese companies and executives blamed for importing the chemicals used to make the deadly drug. Well, let's find out more from the U.S. Attorney General Merrick Garland regarding this.
The United States has ever faced. It is nearly 50 times more potent than heroin and is a We are here today to deliver a message on behalf of the United States government. We know who is responsible for poisoning the American people with fentanyl. We know who is responsible for shattering families and communities across the United States with drug poisonings and overdoses. We know that behind the deaths of hundreds of thousands of Americans is a cartel-driven fentanyl trafficking network that spans countries and continents. We know that this network includes the cartel's leaders, their drug traffickers, their money launderers, their clandestine lab operators, their security forces, their weapons suppliers, and their chemical suppliers. And we know that this global fentanyl supply chain, which ends with the deaths of Americans, often starts with chemical companies in China. The Justice Department charged 8 companies based in China and 12 of their executives for crimes related to the production, distribution, and importation of fentanyl, other synthetic opioids, methamphetamines, and their precursor chemicals. As detailed in the indictments unsealed today, the precursor chemicals used to make synthetic opioids like fentanyl are primarily manufactured and distributed by China-based chemical companies.
It's the latest step in the rapid scaling up of our work.
In Nigeria, about 23 oil blocks managed by both international and local oil companies, which are under crude oil production sharing contracts with the Nigerian National Petroleum Company Limited, failed to produce crude or were inactive according to the federal government. In the last oil and gas industry report for 2021 released by the Nigeria Extractive Industries Transparency Initiative, NETI, an agency of the federal government, the blocks failed to produce crude in the year under review. According to analysis of the latest NETI report, it indicated that in 2021, 12 of the PSC oil blocks made production, while 17 blocks did not produce. The report showed that there were also 6 inactive blocks, bringing the total number of both inactive oil blocks and those that did not produce crude during the review period to 26. Some of the PSC contractors that did not produce crude from selected blocks included SOE&P, Nigerian Ajib Exploration, Shell Nigeria Exploration and Production Company, as well as others. Still in Nigeria, President Bola Ahmed Tinubu-led government has announced that it will kickstart providing a non-interest loan of 50,000 naira to 1.5 million market women under the Government Enterprise and Empowerment Program. The Minister of Humanitarian Affairs and Poverty Alleviation, Dr. Betta Edu, disclosed this during a courtesy visit to the Minister of Information and National Orientation, Mohammed Idris. She stated that the 75 billion naira market women fund, to be named the Iyaloja Fund for underprivileged female traders, is set to be inaugurated on October 17th. So regarding businesses in the country, the Minister of Communication, Innovation and Digital Economy, Dr. Bosun Tijani, says President Bola Ahmed Tinubu's administration plans to raise Nigerian tech capital to 5 billion naira in 4 years. He said the federal government aims to train 3 million early to mid-career technical talents in the next 4 years. Tijani unveiled his plan for the country's tech industry in a paper titled Accelerating Our Collective Prosperity Through Technical Efficiency, a strategic plan for the Federal Ministry of Communication, Innovation and Digital Economy. Here we'll go on a short break. When we return, we'll be looking at global economy and economic statistics based on its implication around the world. Don't go anywhere. Welcome back. It is Business 360 and my name is Blyden Ukem. Looking at global economic statistics all around the world, but beginning with New Zealand. The Reserve Bank of New Zealand maintained its official cash rate, OCR, at 5.5% during its October meeting, extending the rate's pause for the third straight meeting and matching market consensus. The board continued to judge that monetary conditions were restricting spending and reducing cost pressure, following a total of 525 basis point rate hike since October 2021. Simultaneously, the central bank viewed that inflation remained too high and the OCR needs to stay at a restrictive level for longer to return inflation to a goal range of 1 to 3% annually by the second half of 2024. Wednesday's decision came as Kiwis are bracing for an election later this month, with the cost of living becoming a major campaign theme in New Zealand. Now, economic statistics within Africa. The Central Bank of Kenya maintained its benchmark interest rate at 10.5% for the second consecutive meeting on October 3, 2023, the highest in 7 years as expected. Policymakers noted that overall inflation held relatively steady at 6.8% in September 2023, compared to 6.7% in August, and it is projected to stay within the central bank's target range in the near term, supported by lower food prices and anticipated improvement in supply. Additionally, non-food and non-fuel inflation was expected to decline, indicating a reduction in underlying inflationary pressures. The committee also assessed that the effects of the monetary policy tightening implemented in June 2023 to anchor inflation expectations were still being felt throughout the economy in Kenya. Now back home to Nigeria. Nigeria's private sector rises faster in September. The Stanbic IBTC Bank Nigeria PMI, which is the Purchasers Managers Index, rose to 51.1 in September 2023 from a 5-month low of 50.2 in the prior month, pointing to a slight improvement in business conditions in Nigeria. New order growth accelerated at a modest pace, contributing to a renewed increase in business activity, though market conditions remain weak. Unemployment increased for the 5th consecutive month in September, but slightly. On the price front, prices remain elevated, largely due to exchange rate weakness and higher fuel costs in the country, Nigeria. And now would be a good time to look at a chart indicating Stanbic IBTC Bank Nigeria PMI. The charts this morning. Let's look at the state of the private sector in the country over time. Well, while looking and expecting the charts, let's steam straight into the commodities and see what the prices would be regarding most of the commodities in the world. India's prime India's Minister of Petroleum and Natural Gas, Hardan Singh Puri, worries about organized chaos in parts of the world due to rising oil prices and says his country will buy oil from wherever it can get the cheapest prices, but will stay clear of cheap Iranian crude while sanctions are in place. He spoke at the ADIPEC conference in Abu Dhabi. Let's hear from the oil minister.
A large economy, we have been able to deal with issues relating to availability, affordability, sustainability. We'll do it. But there are parts of the world where rising oil price is going to create, I used the expression in another meeting, organized chaos. I would say devastation. As it is in the last 18 months, increasing prices have taken something like 100 million people into abject poverty. So there are parts of the world, I think half the world is, I wouldn't say in recession, but it's flirting with recession. You know, one quarter slightly up, another quarter slightly down. So I think it's in the interest of all countries, including the producing countries, certainly the consuming countries, to have a healthy discussion on what constitutes a reasonable price band.
All right, so why don't we do that now?
Why
here?
don't we do it? Why don't you and I solve the problem?
So what is that
well,
range?
I would certainly think.
That was the oil minister in India. And now let's move to the market regarding the energy market, the price of crude oil in the market, and the rest of the energy commodities, the market this morning. Well, crude oil price, the U.S. crude, which is the West Texas Intermediate crude, is downward by 1.27 points. $87 per barrel is the price, a negative 1.42% decline this morning. For Brent, which is Nigeria's price benchmark, also downward by 0.905 points, a $90.015 US dollars per barrel, a negative 0.99% decline. Natural gas, gasoline, heating oil, coal are little here, little there, but coal price is downward by 5 points. $150 US dollars per ton is the price of coal. And further markets would be the industrial market next, and afterwards we'll look at the metal and agricultural market. For industrial commodities, beginning with bitumen's price is upward by 42 points, 3,973 Chinese yuan per ton is the price, gaining 1.07%. For cobalt, still no significant difference in the market. The price of lead is 24.25 points downward, a negative 1.12% decline, $2,138 US dollars per ton. Aluminium price is downward by 4.5 points this morning, $2,285 US dollars 50 cents per ton. Let's look at further commodities, even as the price of tin is downward. Metal market. The price of gold slightly downward this morning, but the volatility level quite low, a 0.15 points decrease, a negative 0.01% decline. Gold prices $1,822 US dollars per ounce. Silver price at $21 US dollars per ounce. Copper slightly downward at $3 US dollars 61 cents per pound, and steel price gaining this morning 18 points, 3,670 Chinese yuan per ton. It's the price in the metals market. And quickly, let's look at agricultural commodities and what the prices are this morning. I'm talking about soybeans and the rest. Soybeans gaining 8.25 points this morning, a 0.65% appreciation. 1,281 US dollars per bushel is the price of soybeans, while wheat price is downward by 7.61 points, and palm oil gaining 5 points this morning. And it brings a conclusion to the commodity market. And now to the foreign exchange market, beginning with Japanese yen. The Japanese yen stabilized near 149 per dollar in the early hours of the morning after an unexpected surge in the previous session raised fears that authorities could have intervened in the currency markets to support the yen. While the currency jumped as much as 1.7% to 147.3 late on Tuesday before giving back most of the gains as stronger than expected US jobs data boosted the view that the Federal Reserve will keep interest rates at restrictive levels for an extended period. While the Finance Minister, Tsunoshi Suzuki, recently warned that he was watching currency moves cautiously. But last year, Japanese authorities intervened in the currency market for the first time since 1998, when the yen slumped 145.9 to a dollar. And concerns could it be the same story this year? But quickly, before we go to the market, let's look at the FX update this morning as the Russian ruble depreciates by 0.45%. Top currency losers are Russian ruble, negative 0.45%, and Turkish lira, a negative 0.3%. For gainers, the gains are led by the Australian dollar at 0.35%. Quickly, let's move to the market and see what a price action is in the market, beginning with the euro against the US dollar and afterwards the naira's perspective in the market. The euro against the US dollar. Well, market regarding the euro against the US dollar has been a little here, a little there in recent times, but it's currently at 1.05 point mark, a slight gain in the morning market, 0.43% appreciation for the pounds against the US dollar. Similar story, but the volatility level is quite low, 1.21 point mark. Now quickly, let's look at naira's perspective against the majors at the international exchange window. 766 naira 45 kobo equals 1 US dollar at the open of the market this morning. For the euro against the naira, 836 naira 15 kobo equals 1 euro, a gain of 33.19 points for the euro over the naira at the closure of yesterday's market. Still at the closure of yesterday's market, the pound against the naira is standing at 962 naira 97 kobo for 1 pound, a gain of 36.62 points in favor of the pound over the naira at the closure of yesterday's market. And quickly, let's move to the parallel market and see what the prices are in the parallel market this morning, looking at the parallel distribution of the market. Well, the black market has shown some positive one way or the other, or negativity also. On the other hand, the dollar to naira understandings this morning, buying rate 1,001 naira equaling $1, and selling rate 990 naira to $1. The pounds to naira, a current price at a buying rate is 1,270 naira equaling 1 pound, and 1,255 naira to a pound. For the euro to naira buying rate, 1,060 naira to 1 euro, and 1,045 naira at the selling rate to a euro, and you make the difference out of it, 15 naira spread. The cryptocurrency market also, it's quite important. Let's look at the digital coin and the prices that comes with the digital coin this morning. Well, Bitcoin price, it's upward by 185 points. Market is moving quite fast, a 0.64% appreciation, $27,570 equals 1 Bitcoin. A slight declination for Ether this morning, 7.43 point drop for Ether. $1,649 is the price of Ether. Binance slightly downward, Cardano, Solana, Ripples, and Polkadot a little here, a little there. And now let's look at the global stock market and what implication has been happening in the market. Global stocks sinks as yield rally. Global stocks were in the red today as bond yield continued to rise and the dollar extended its gain amid lingering concerns that borrowing costs will remain elevated for an extended period. In Europe, both the DAX and the Stoxx 600 plummeted to fresh 6 months lows, and in Asia, the Nikkei 225 sank 2.2% to 4.5-month lows, while stock futures in the US also pointed to a lower open. But let's have a conclusion from the Nigerian perspective, the Nigerian stock market from yesterday, and gives us a direction to today. Investors' demand for Bois Cement's 22 orders lifted stock markets by 218 billion naira. The Nigerian stock market exchange reopened after the holiday break yesterday, and the benchmark All-Share Index moved up 388.83 basis points to close at 66,770.97 points yesterday. The market capitalization also stood at 36.5 trillion naira. 116 listed equities participated in trading, ending with 24 gainers and 27 losers at the closure of the market. The top gainers, Bois Cement, led the gainers with 9.94% share price appreciation, closing at 94 naira per share, while the bottom losers were Linkage Assurance, who came at last with an end-of-day price appreciation of 10% at 72 kobo per share. Top volume trades for the closure of market yesterday was Consolidated Hallmark Insurance, recording the highest volume of 71.5 million traded shares. But let's quickly look at the Nigerian stock market today as we draw the curtain, what the prices are in today's market. Dangote Cement is downward this morning, and Bois Cement going higher this morning, 8.5 points, and Saplat are downward, and Stanbic IBTC downward. Good news for Bois Cement. But here we draw the curtain on today's edition of Business 360. Thank you for being a part of it. and quick to call it done this moment.